Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at how the Yellow Tapion does in PvP at 3 stars. So I only managed to get Yellow Tapion once, but I've decided to kind of do these 3-star PvP demo kind of videos just as like, I don't know, something different to the whole like, what if they are 9-star with the best equipment and everything. So this is basically just Tapion with like standard equipment, A and S rank, and we're just going to see how he does in PvP. Now obviously the big thing with Tapion, or the huge kind of big that he, or buff that he has, or the big mechanic that he brings, is he brings death damage, which is like a brand new mechanic essentially in Legends, and it's basically like this new mechanic whereby when he's defeated he will cause a whole bunch of damage to the enemy. Obviously an interesting thing about this mechanic is that it's the AoE damage it does, so it'll damage the whole team. The AoE damage it does is entirely based on which unit defeats him. So if, for example, a purple unit beats Tapion, then Tapion is going to do a lot more damage with his like death blow, and that death blow is going to essentially do a lot more damage to the rest of the team. But if, for example, this UI Goku kills him, then you're going to do substantially less damage, which is something pretty interesting, I guess. Obviously, it's an interesting dynamic to the mechanic, trying to obviously bring it in. Something that helps Tapion a lot is that he can, so whenever you get targeted with a Rising Rush, his substitution counter immediately resets. So you can sub him in to just basically tank or die from a Rising Rush, and he's essentially going to do his job by providing damage. So pretty interesting card. He's also got some other really good stuff to him. So for example, his main ability lets him draw a special arts card. He restores ally health by 25%, which is obviously really good. And the key, he gets plus 25% to strike damage as well. And he seals the enemy's blast arts cards, which makes it more a hand-to-hand combat situation, which is obviously really good. And then he's got obviously the Phantom Margin sealed within. That deals major explode damage to the enemy when this character is defeated, and the damage inflicted will also be dealt to the enemies on standby. So there's a couple ways it cannot be activated. It can't, like, it can, like, if the character does a self-destruct, then the effect's not activated. But not a lot of characters have a self-destruct mechanic, so it's not something you're going to commonly see. And then also, like, you can't kill enemies with it, so if your attack would kill them, it just knocks them to 1 health, which is still pretty good. I mean, it's still really good. When he enters the battle, he gets reduced damage by 50%. He destroys an enemy card. He has 80% to inflicted damage. And he also inflicts all enemies with a debuff for card draw speed. He inflicts all of them with a debuff for damage received. Seals their strike arts cards, and obviously he also shortens the own substitution count by 10 when the enemy activates a Rising Rush. So it's not like a full refresh, but it basically is pretty much. Then if you switch to standby, you draw 1 new card, you gain plus 25% inflicted damage, and every time he uses a card art, he is restored and he gains plus 20% to strike damage. So pretty cool. And when he lands a strike arts card hit, he seals their special arts and special moves. Their sealed arts can be used for 5 turn counters, and he also reduces the amount of health they restore. So he brings like a lot of, like, a ridiculous amount of sealing and control and stuff to the fight, which is actually pretty cool if you think about it. Like, he actually does a really like high level of damage and stuff, which is great. So that's obviously really cool from that perspective. So I think he's a pretty interesting pretty interesting unit. He has a chance to inflict bleed. His heroic blades aura, gives him obviously a whole bunch of strikes, which helps him with, attacking the enemy and obviously sealing or giving the ability to seal, the opposition. So Tapion is really cool. Although at 3-star, I do find at 3-star and with only the standard kind of gear, I do find he's not relatively tanky. And there's one thing I will say I've noted. And his damage on red types is not high. Obviously, you can change that. It is very possible to change that if you, do the right team builds and that. But I do find his death mechanic is a lot of fun to use. When you get it right, it can be super duper devastating. Like when you throw it in there and you manage to get it on a purple type character, it's actually a lot of fun. It's like a lot of fun to use, and you can see a lot of big results, which is really, really cool. I think that's really, really awesome. So for me, I thought that's probably the coolest new mechanic. Obviously, with the amount of red MUI Gokus flying around, obviously there's quite a large counter to him. Just getting basically one hit KO'd by a red UI Goku is not going to help your situation. But generally speaking, he's pretty solid. Like even in these situations where he's probably going to be facing a unit that's disadvantageous to him, you can still get a whole bunch of other benefits. And obviously just switching him in to counter or to take the Rising Rush is still something that's valuable. Even if that Rising Rush is probably used by a red character, especially if it's to save a unit. You can always just throw Tapion in as the sacrificial lamb, essentially. So that is something that's pretty cool overall, and I think helps out, if I can say anything like that. I mean, there you can see we managed to get the he managed to obviously get his main ability off. We saw the healing there. That was pretty solid. So Tapion, I don't know, I like him. I think he's cool. I think he's also interesting in design, which I think you kind of have to do with these non-hype characters. Like, no one's going to get mega hype over Tapion. He's a really cool character, but it's not like he had a huge part in Dragon Ball Z. So it's difficult to get super hype about him. But at the same time, he is still pretty solid. He still does the business. He does a lot of good stuff. I really like what he brings to the table. I think he's great. I think he's really cool, man. I think he's cool. Obviously, here, the fight's not going my way so much, which is a little bit of a shame. But hey, it is what it is. Can't avoid these things. But, not every match is... See, so here's the thing. We'll look at this damage that he's going to do here. He's going to do a ton of damage. Now, unfortunately, we're not in a position where it's going to turn around the fight, but it was so big. Obviously, his Whis kind of counteracts that a little bit with his little AoE heal. But overall, it was a good show. It was good to show how much damage he actually does when, obviously, it is a purple unit. It's really good to always see the difference in damage and how much it helps things out. And I just think, overall, I think he's really cool. I really, really, really dig him. For me, I don't know. I really, really enjoy using this unit. So for me, really awesome stuff, and just really, really, really great. So all cool. Gonna do one more battle, and then we'll just kind of call it there. Overall, on my impressions, I think he's reusable. I think the team I have is not a good setup for him, if I'm honest. Obviously, I've just kind of gone with putting him on a powerful opponent team, essentially, which isn't bad, but I think, you do need more mechanics to kind of bait out the enemy and switch him into situations you want Tapion to be kind of centered around. I think you want to kind of box the enemy in to maybe having a purple type out there Tapion can really get a hold of, or you want to, probably box them and stop them from really busting out something crazy and just being able to kind of control the stem of the fight. For the most part, though, I actually, yeah, I think he did quite well. We'll see how we go here, but for me, overall, pretty solid PvP unit. I'll work on him, maybe get him some better equipment. Equipment does help him out a lot. Generally, what you're going to want to go for is, you don't need to worry about him being too tanky, like, because he does damage after dying. His death is not equivocally bad. Obviously, you want him to stay alive to use his main ability. Ideally, you want to get some damage out of him as well. So, like, I think overall, probably just building him into some strike damage would be pretty good. Strike damage, crits if possible, also might be a pretty solid kind of pickup. And then, you can maybe also look at picking up something like, some health or something like that. Defense, and that's always great. Obviously, you don't want him to die immediately. But I think, generally just going for an all-out defensive build on the guy could be something that's quite appealing. Like I said, him dying isn't the biggest issue. Him doing some huge damage, dying, and then doing some more huge damage could make him pretty interesting as an option. Just from like a performance point of view, like I think it would be pretty interesting to just use him as like this kamikaze unit that just goes out there. If you get him rolling, he just does huge damage, and then if you don't, he just like dies, and then you do huge damage anyway. So I think that could be an interesting way to use him. Here you can see, by the way, when all the strike attacks rack up, how sealed the enemy is. It's pretty interesting how many debuffs that Tapion can apply, obviously, to any single enemy. And even here, like, if we die at this point, Tapion's done huge damage, and then he'll do more damage should he obviously die. And you're just going to knock both enemies out to the bottom. So you can see here, again, his death mechanic comes in really nicely. He's going to knock both characters to 1, which is great. And then you basically set up for the rest of the fight. Now, not obviously set up to win. You can still screw up any situation, basically, if you are bad enough, like me. But yeah, for the most part, I think it's actually really, really good. I think Tapion, I like Tapion. I think he does a lot of good work, and I think he can turn the tide of battle if you use his death mechanic effectively. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, man. Really, really dope. But that's going to be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you are using Tapion, maybe let me know. I don't know how you guys feel about him. I'd dig to see some comments and some feedback. Maybe someone's got a good team build for him, a good equipment build for him. But yeah, thanks guys for watching, and bye.